Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to consider a rather sad question. Whither Melodiya, the Russian national record label, now that Russia is at war and has become a pariah nation, effectively, what's going to happen to all of those recordings? I mean, they were hard enough to get from the beginning. Let's do a little bit of history, shall we? Melodiya has always been a big, fat mess. I mean, really a mess. There's all kinds of, they were, run by the state. They were the only sanctioned record label in the Soviet Union. They recorded everything. They were technologically about 100 years behind everyone else, sonically as well. They had amazing artists. Amazing. We know that. We don't need to talk about how great the artists are. But the technology and the sonics were, oh my God, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I remember there's a wonderful story a friend of mine told me who used to work for CBS Records, Columbia, back in the days when they were Columbia. Because when Melodiya was owned by the Soviets, it was not available in the United States by and large, or even in Western Europe that much. They operated through licenses. They worked with EMI, they worked with Columbia, and they allowed certain recordings to be released by artists who were not so much in political disfavor. And one of the things that happened is Columbia licensed a recording of Boris Godunov. And they were very concerned, this was in the 60s, I mean at the height of the Cold War, that recordings should be in stereo. And stereo was sort of an iffy thing back then in the Soviet Union. And so they got the tapes and they were in mono. And they put them through, the walk at the sine wave and all that, and how many channels there were. There was only one, it was in mono. And so they wrote back to Melodiya and said, we asked for stereo and what you sent us was mono. And they got a reply. The reply is, Chief Engineer Ivan Solofovsky says, is stereo, period. And that was it. That was what dealing with Melodiya was like. They had not a concept about how to, market or sell anything. And believe me, the Western labels had not a concept how to market or sell anything either. So you can only imagine what was going on in Eastern Europe. And then the Berlin Wall fell, and all of these labels became somewhat privatized. At least some of them were. And I remember the first year in the 90s, after the fall of the wall, when Eastern Europe was free for the first time, it was unbelievable. All of these labels came to Melodiya, the convention that happens in the fall in Cannes, France, where I was doing the Cannes Classical Awards. It was called Marché International du Disque et Édition Musicale. That's Melodiya, and it was done in the Palais des Festivals, where they have the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, it was really fun to go there and to do this, and I did it for over a decade. Anyway, so that one year, all of the Eastern European labels came. And they were absolutely like lost. They didn't know what they were doing. I mean, Melodiya had gone out, the organization, and sold them very, very expensive stands. They have stands where you go and you meet them and whatnot and see what their products are. And they were being privatized and they didn't know what was going on. And some of them I knew quite well, like the Czechs, for example, who were always, interested in working with the West and selling their products. Superfund was available. But most of the others, were absolutely gone. And one of them there was a Russian label called Международная книга, which means international books. They had one of the largest stands at Melodiya, and it was empty. It was nothing there. There wasn't a desk. There wasn't a chair. They had their sign, Международная книга, and every so often there was an office in the back. The door would open, and somebody who looked like, he had just retired from the KGB would come out and suck someone into the back room, and the door would close. And that was the last we'd see of them. We had no idea what was going on there. We don't think records had much to do with it. And Melodiya was there as well. And to talk to these people was it was an unbelievable trip. They sat on enormous piles of material, but they had no idea what they were going to do with it. And so Melodiya, as the wall came down, did two things. It became its own label once again and started exporting at very, very high prices. It still does, by the way, or it did. Where they stand now, I don't know. And they also continue to license things. And some of it was licenses of licenses, because you can only imagine the condition these contracts were in and what was going on. I mean, Melodiya had wonderful stuff. In fact, stay with me for a moment. I'm going to get some, because it's all sitting right here in my not overflow section. Here is one of the earlier Melodiya releases of the complete Shostakovich symphonies with Kirill Kondrashin. A wonderful box of stuff. I mean, they were released in tandem for a while with RCA. This one, as you can see, says BMG on the bottom. I'm going to do that. There's BMG. This was a license cooperative arrangement thing. And I have some other things here that I can show you. I mean, this is Brilliant Classics. Did a whole ton of Melodiya stuff. This is 2 10-CD sets, the Alexander Gauck edition. I mean, this is fascinating. He did amazing stuff. He did Piston's 6th Symphony, which is somehow called the Gettysburg here. I don't know why. And Roussel's 4th, and all kinds of nifty stuff. And Russian composers you've never heard of. Some of it's stereo, some of it's mono. I think it's all mono or mostly mono. Nobody knows. They don't know, nobody cared. So there's that. Then we have this Kondrashin edition, his Mahler recordings. Oh, yes. This was also, I think, a BMG or this. No, yes, this is BMG, but this was only Japanese BMG. So it was licensed to BMG and only issued in Japan. Getting this stuff was just crazy. And then we have Melodiya. This was the complete Prokofiev ballets with Gennady Rozhdestvensky, or almost all of them. Not all of them, but I think almost all of them. It's a wonderful set. And let's see, when was this issued? Well, they were recorded all kinds of different times, obviously. And some of the stuff is quite old, and some of it is digital. And Russian digital was an experience, believe me, in terms of paint peeling screechiness, really quite amazing. And here is, of course, Richter, the concerto edition. This was a Brilliant Classics collaboration. I don't know if this is still available. I mean, all of this is now up in the air. These are just things, I just pulled them out at random. I could just shove them back where they used to live, right here. And the question now is, where is this stuff? What's going to happen to it? The Russians have never gotten their brains around how to do a sensible release program of stuff that they have. It's always just been a money grab. It's been like, what can we license? What can we get? What can we do? Whether they take care of their master tapes, how they categorize them and catalog them, it's anybody's guess. I mean, I've had friends in Russia. I've asked them what's going on. They're like, we have no idea. Nobody knows. And now, of course, Russia is in a mess, and a big mess. And this enormous legacy is sitting out there, and God only knows what's going to happen to it. Every few years, you hear rumors. Melodiya's made a deal with so-and-so or such and such, or some Russian oligarch took over the whole thing and now has all the masters and squirreled them away on his yacht somewhere. Who knows? It's just a sad thing. And I'm not here to make any prognostications. I'm just asking the question, because now that this war has been going on for over a year and there's no end to it in sight, and it's going to be a mess, and whatever happens, Russia is going to have issues with how it deals with the rest of the world and how it promotes itself, and it has, this wonderful cultural legacy I don't know. It's in limbo. It's all in limbo, and it's a pity. It's just a pity. And so I wanted to say something about it so that we're just aware of what it is, and then keep your eyes out. Let's see what's happening. I don't have a clue. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.